we were talking earlier in the show, off air, a little bit about fan behavior. We saw it with the NBA playoffs this weekend, and we were discussing some humorous antics even in the Premier League with streaking and so forth. But what's going on with fans nowadays, Mike? What do you think?
I think that there's an element of reaction to the civil rights protests. I think there's an element of that. One can assume that there is. I think part of it is being pent up for a year and change and not being able to go to sporting events. It's not just the fan behavior, bad behavior relative to the athletes on the field, which is awful and the worst of what we get. But there's also been some terrible fan behavior in the stands amongst each other. We've seen a lot of fight type situations picked up and on cell phone videos and distributed on social media. We've seen a fair amount of that. Again, for only really being back in the arena for a month or so, we've seen some pretty nasty stuff. I was delighted at the NCAA basketball events that I attended, and which were reasonably well attended by fans. I mean, obviously not capacity crowds, and you were there too, Kevin. There were no incidents at all relative to each other, relative to the fans, to the athletes on the field, on the floor. We had no problems at all. And we were just talking about the NCAA men's soccer tournament. They had no incidents at all. They had a lot of fans down in North Carolina. People seem to really enjoy it. So it's a shame that it's happening, and it's really a shame when it involves antipathy toward the competitors. That's the worst of it, and that's got to stop. And I'm not sure what I'm not sure what the repercussions should be, other than the bannings that we've seen of the particular fans that have done these incidents, have been responsible for these incidents. I'm not sure what you can do to them beyond banning them. Although I do know that in one case, I believe in the Boston case, one of them is being criminally prosecuted. So that might be a warning to those who think it's funny or cool to throw water bottles or popcorn or whatever. There was a spitting incident. Those kinds of things, I think making them criminal is probably a good step, because it'll cause those who maybe think about it in the future to well, I'm not just going to be banned. I might wind up with a police record.
Yeah, I think they have to, unfortunately, that's the next step, because that's the only thing that's going to start to deter people, because a trespassing charge, not really, it's like getting a ticket. And they've got to keep the health and the safety of these guys, especially you're talking guys that are making millions of dollars this is a corporation. This is the active part of their corporation. So they're definitely going to start making change, which it sucks for the rest of the world, because you got these few morons that starts changing things for everybody else. It starts cutting out access for everybody, which again takes a little piece of what sports are away. They keep chipping away a little bit at it, of what sports is. I mean, you think way back when you could go up to talk to a guy that's actually playing and get an autograph and all that. And those instances are becoming less and less just because of these types of situations.
One thing that merits saying is that the people who have tried to defend or tried to mitigate it to an extent, the action against Kyrie Irving by talking about how he stomped on their logo. I mean, let's grow up a little bit here, huh? I mean, come on. If you don't want the logo to be walked on, don't put it on the floor. That's a good way of putting it. That's a ridiculous response to what, he could have been seriously injured. Fortunately, he wasn't. But there's when objects are thrown at people, whether they're athletes or not, there's always the potential for a significant injury just by a fluke. Maybe it hits him in the eye and damages his eye, something like that. So there's no equivalence here and no justification. You don't like that he walked on the logo, whatever. But to even put it in a sentence with a water bottle thrown in his direction that could have significantly injured him is ludicrous.
Mike, we've seen that. I think I remember 20 years ago, the Star incident with Terrell Owens. That's usually best policed by the competitors on the field, right?
Yes.
That's how you handle it. The Celtics, next time Kyrie goes in the lane, you give him a little, maybe elbow to the chops as he's going to the basket or something like that. That's how you handle it more than obviously. That. But what about, here's something, though, you talk about college sports, and in the college realm, rushing the court. The SEC has a rule, right? And certainly, John, and I've said this many times on the air, and Jim disagrees with me, but John Calipari is not coming back to Assembly Hall because of what happened in 2012. What happened with them rushing the court? I'm convinced of that. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, it's supposedly after the players come off the court, but it still creates a dangerous situation potentially if the players don't get off the court in time. What are your thoughts? I mean, should we eradicate that from the game, or is it just simply good for TV?
I get yelled at a lot because of my stance on this, but I think that when you buy a ticket to a game, and I am someone, people say, well, you're a sports writer, you get in free, all that. Yeah, I get in free to the games I'm working, but I go to a lot of sporting events for which I pay full freight to get in. I've gone to Pacers games here in Indy. I've gone to Reds games. My wife loves the Reds. We go to the Reds. When I'm back in Pittsburgh, it's been a while, obviously, but I went to a game in the 2019 season to see the Steelers. We've been to see the Penguins on numerous occasions. So I pay to watch sporting events and love it, and I'm glad to do it. And when I pay, I have the right to my seat and to celebrate and enjoy myself within the bounds of good taste as much as I want. And usually a little bit after the buzzer or final whistle or whatever, if I want. And then ultimately, if you've been there too long, they say, hey, it's time to leave. We got to clean this place up. But you're entitled to that. And that's what you're entitled to. You're not entitled to be on the playing surface. Your ticket does not buy you that. And it's just as much fun. Look, I've been in the arena for big wins by the teams that I care about. And it's just as much fun to celebrate there at your seat as it is to jump on the floor. The jump on the floor thing is a cliche that people do because everybody else does. But if the teams that in the SEC, for instance, I mean, in Kentucky, I don't think there's been a court rushing in forever. Do you think they're not having fun on the way to the 2012 NCAA championship with Anthony Davis dunking and Marcus Teague setting guys up and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist blocking shots? They're having a blast. No one rushes the court at the Final Four except the players. But I tell you what, the people who win the championship, you think Baylor wasn't happy? You think the people, you saw them, the people in the stands at Lucas Oil Stadium, there were a lot of green fans there, a lot of green and gold colored fans, and they were ecstatic because their team won a championship. They did not need to be on the floor to celebrate that championship. I don't buy that it's a necessity or a value to college athletics. I think it's dangerous. And again, you're not entitled to that. You're entitled to celebrate with your friends and fans and family and students and whatever at your seat, the one you paid for.